Hello class 6, welcome back to the history classes. Today we are going to start chapter 10, which is New Empires and Kingdoms. Learning objectives. The Gupta dynasty, life under the Guptas, Deccan and the Southern Kingdoms, assemblies in the Southern Kingdom, extent of the Gupta Empire, Harshvardhana, a new kind of army, lives of ordinary people. Let's warm up. Look at the picture to your right and answer the questions. A. Name the monument. B. Where is it located? C. Who built it? Application skills. A fisherman finds a ring. Now answer the following questions. A. Do you think that if a poor man finds something and reports this to the police, he would be treated like this today? B. Name a famous man who taught in Prakrit and a king who issued inscription in Prakrit. We have already studied that the Mauryas were succeeded by a number of native and foreign rulers. Of them, some were important, but after the fall of the Kushanas in the north and the Satavahanas in the Deccan, the country broke up into a large number of small independent states. These states were all at war with one another, but in the beginning of the 4th century CE, these small kingdoms began to decline and Magad again became powerful under the Gupta dynasty. The Gupta dynasty. The Gupta dynasty controlled the destiny of most of the northern India for more than 200 years, although it was not as vast as the Mauryan Empire. But it left a deep cultural impact not only on the Indian subcontinent but also on the adjacent Asian countries. Prayag, Ujjain and Patliputra were the important centers of the Gupta rulers. Under the Gupta rule, India made immense progress in almost every field. That is why their glorious rule is known as the Golden Age of ancient Indian history. This is the map of extent of Gupta Empire. The Gupta dynasty was founded by Maharaja Sri Gupta. He was followed by his son Ghatotkacha Gupta. After the Ghatotkacha, Chandragupta first came to the throne. The great rulers of this dynasty were Chandragupta I, Samudragupta and Chandragupta II. Extent of the Gupta Empire. The original kingdom of the Gupta comprised UP and Bihar at the end of the 3rd century CE. UP seems to have been the more important province than Bihar, because early Gupta coins and inscriptions have largely been found from that state. They had their center of power at Prayag, from where they spread to the neighboring regions. Owing to their location in this region, they enjoyed certain material advantages. They could exploit South Bihar regionally. They were located in close vicinity of the areas in North India that had close trade links with the Byzantine Empire. The places that acquired prominence during the Gupta reign are Anuganga, Prayag, Saket and Magad. Chandragupta I, 320 CE to 335 CE. Chandragupta I was the first ruler of the Gupta dynasty to adopt the grand title of Maharaja Dhiraj. His father and grandfather are mentioned simply as Maharajas. Chandragupta married a Licchavi princess Kumara Devi. This is the image of Chandragupta I. The marriage was very advantageous to him. He got Patliputra as part of his dowry. He conquered a number of kingdoms. With the support of the Licchavis, he expanded his empire from Magad to Prayag. Samudragupta, 335 CE to 375 CE. Samudragupta, son of Chandragupta I, was the greatest ruler of the Gupta dynasty. An inscription engraved on a pillar at Allahabad, popularly called the Allahabad Pillar inscription or the Prayag Prashasti, is the main source of information on Samudragupta's conquest. It was composed by Samudragupta's court poet, Harisena. The Prayag Prashasti. The Prashasti lists the rulers against whom Samudragupta waged campaigns. He defeated 4 kings of northern India and brought present-day Delhi and western Uttar Pradesh under his direct administration. He fought against rulers ruling in the Deccan and South India. He defeated many kings ruling in eastern India and made them accept his suzerainty. He defeated the forest tribes of the Vindhya region. He also fought against the Kushanas and the Sakas and received tributes from them. Samudragupta is often called the Napoleon of India. because of his expansionist policies, though his direct rule extended only from Bengal in the east to Delhi in the west. This is the image of the gold coin showing Samudragupta. He indirectly controlled a much larger area. He also revived the custom of Ashwamedha to assert his political supremacy. He was a tolerant ruler and a great patron of art. Chandragupta II, 380 CE to 413 CE. The Gupta inscriptions mention Chandragupta II as Samudragupta's successor. He took the title of Vikramaditya and extended the limits of the empire by marriage alliances. These are the images of Lichavi Queen Kumaradevi and the King Chandragupta I, depicted on a coin issued by their son Samudragupta. By marriage alliances and conquest. By the end of his reign, his empire extended to western, northwestern and eastern India. Chandragupta II is also known for his patronage of men of letters. Kalidas, the Sanskrit poet, was a member of his court. Fact file: the Allahabad inscription is engraved on an Ashokan pillar. It is unique because on one side of the pillar is the Ashokan inscription upholding the principles of peace, and on the other side, Harisena praises Samudragupta for his aggressive policies and conquest. Later, Guptas. Chandragupta II was succeeded by Kumaragupta, who in turn was succeeded by Skandagupta. Skandagupta was successful in withstanding the attacks of Huns, a barbaric nomadic tribe of Central Asia. However, the later Gupta rulers were weak, so gradually the provinces under the Guptas became independent and some went under the control of the Huns. The Gupta Empire disintegrated by the mid-6th century CE. Life under the Guptas. Chandragupta Vikramaditya was a great patron of art and literature. The 9 gems or Navratna, including Kalidas, the greatest poet, and Varhamihira, the greatest astronomer and scientist, are associated with his reign. Fa-Hien, the Chinese traveler who visited India during his time, has left behind an account of his kingdom. In the loop, the Gupta period is often considered as the golden age in the history of ancient India. This is due to the fact that there was an all-round development in all aspects of art, literature, sculpture, architecture, etc. This was the time when great universities flourished in Nalanda and Takshila, and great writers such as Kalidas and mathematician and astronomer Aryabhat lived. This was the age which came up with the concept of zero. Indian art and sculpture in the Gupta period reached its zenith with magnificent technological advances like the iron pillar. The coins of the Gupta period too are regarded as among the most beautiful of the ancient Indian coins. Central administration. The Gupta rulers adopted an elaborate system of administration. It was in operation in areas which were directly controlled by them. They took up high-sounding titles such as Maharaja Dhiraj, Chakravarti or Parameshwara. The king remained the central figure of administration. He was assisted by a council of ministers. He issued written instructions to officials on all important matters. He was assisted by Mahadandanayak, the chief justice in judicial matters. The Guptas at their peak must have had a big army organization. The army itself consisted of elephants, cavalry, infantry and chariots. At the time of war, the king led his army, but ordinarily there was a minister called Sandhi Vigrahika. He was in charge of peace and war and was helped by a group of high officials. Provincial administration. The empire was divided into bhuktis or provinces. In the provinces, this work was entrusted to the Uparikas and in districts to the Vishyapatis. In village, the headmen of the village elders used to decide the petty cases. The Chinese traveler Fa-Hien, who came during the reign of Chandragupta II, states that capital punishment was not given at all. Social life. Fa-Hien says that he did not come across any shop which sold meat or liquor. The people were simple, honest and generous. They set up rest houses and free hospitals for the travelers and the poor. A class called the Chandalas worked as hunters, butchers, and fishermen, etc. They lived outside the city walls. When they entered the gate of a city, they struck a piece of wood so that the people may avoid coming into contact with them. This was not a happy sign for Gupta society. Religion. Fahin wrote that Buddhism flourished during that time. There were large number of Buddhist monks in Punjab and Mathura. The king was a Vaishnav, worshipper of God Vishnu by faith, but there was a perfect religious toleration in his empire. He gave liberal grants to the Buddhists and the Brahmins. Trade. In Gupta period, trade flourished on the western coast in the port of Bharuch, Supara and Kalyan. There was contract trade which existed with Western Asia, Africa and Arabia. From the coast of Tamralipti, there was trade with certain places of Southeast Asia like Kampuchea, Java and Burma, now Myanmar. As a result of the flourishing condition of trade and industry, people became rich and prosperous. Art and architecture. A large number of beautiful temples with the Shikhara symbol were built during the Gupta period. Early temples had a large room where the idol of God was kept. Today these can be found in Devgarh, in Jhansi and in Sanchi near Bhopal. Beautiful fresco paintings on the wall of Ajanta caves were also made in this period by the Guptas. These are the images of the Dasavatar temple at Devgarh. Lord Vishnu saves Gajendra Devgarh. Gupta age, the golden age of India. Gupta period is regarded as an era of the revival of Hinduism. Classical Sanskrit literature was revived during this period. A great progress was made in the field of education. Nalanda, Takshila, Vallabhi were some of the famous universities of this period. A lot of progress was made in the field of science and technology. A firm foundation of temple architecture was laid. The art of painting reached its highest of glory. Harshvardhana 606 CE to 647 CE brought together the independent states of North India. He became the ruler of Thanesar, the present-day Haryana and Kannauj. He gradually shifted his capital to Kannauj. This is the image of Yun Sang praised Harsha in his work. He was a patron of arts and religion and was a great scholar himself. He patronized Buddhism and the popular Nalanda University. He also built many stupas. He wrote 3 plays in Sanskrit, Ratnavali, Priyadarshika and Nagananda. Yun Sang, the Chinese pilgrim, visited India during Harsha's reign and stayed in his court for about 8 years. Sources. There are 2 main sources on Harsha's reign. One is Harshcharit, the biography of Harsha written by his court poet Banbhat. The other source is the accounts of the Chinese pilgrim Yun Sang who visited India during Harsha's reign. Besides, these inscriptions and coins also tell us about Harsha. Harsha's kingdom. Soon after ascending the throne, Harsha moved his capital from Thanesar to Kannauj as it had a better strategic location. During the 41 years of Harsha period, he established a strong empire which extended from Punjab, Kashmir and Nepal in the north to the river Narmada in the south. Harsha ruled from his capital at Kannauj, which was located in the rich agricultural region of the western Gangetic plain. This is the map of the extent of the empire of Harshvardhana. Administration of Harsha. Harsha was an enlightened and a kind ruler. There were some independent rulers who accepted the sovereignty of Harsha. These independent kings paid a regular tribute, offered homage to the king and helped him in times of the war. The king was helped by ministers, princes and other officials to run the administration. The whole empire was divided into provinces known as deshas. Deshas were further divided into districts known as pradeshas. Officials in charge of districts were called ayukta and those in charge of provinces were known as kumaramatyas. In the loop, Harsha's reign marks the transit from the ancient to medieval times. Religion. Harsha was a follower of Shiva in his early years. Later he embraced Buddhism, however he was tolerant towards all religions. He called 2 great assemblies to discuss Buddhism. After the death of Harsha in 647 CE, northern India was plunged into anarchy. Small regional kingdoms continued to fight with one another. Meanwhile, the Deccan and the South India rose to glory. Deccan and the Southern Kingdoms. After the fall of the Satavahanas, the Vakatakas rose to power in the Deccan. They worshipped Lord Shiva. They also encouraged art and literature, but their dynasty did not last for a long time. The Chalukyas. The Chalukya Empire extended from south of Vindhya till the river Krishna. Vatapi was their capital. Pulkeshin II was the most powerful king of this dynasty. He defeated King Harsha in the north and Mahadev Varman, the Pallava king, in the south. His kingdom extended from Arabian Sea to Bay of Bengal, from the Narmada river to the Palar river. However, later he was defeated by the Pallava king Narsim Varman. The Rashtrakutas of Deccan destroyed the power of Chalukyas in totality. Trade. Chalukyas had good trade relations with Arabia, Iran and Southeast Asia and areas near the Red Sea. Sports. Pulkeshin II had good trade ties with Persia, Iran. Religion. The Chalukya kings followed Hinduism. Vishnu and Shiva are their famous gods. However, they remained tolerant towards other religions as both Buddhism and Jainism continued to flourish. Art and architecture. The capital city of Vatapi saw the construction of a number of temples of Shiva and Vishnu. The murals at Ajanta help us to know about this period, dress and lifestyle. They even encouraged sculptures at Ellora. The Ajanta and Ellora caves near Aurangabad in Maharashtra are still famous tourist attractions. The Pallavas. The Pallavas rose to power in the 6th century CE. According to historians, the Pallavas were. This map is showing the territories of Pallavas and Chalukyas, originally officials serving under the Satavahanas. When the power of the Satavahanas declined, the Pallavas started spreading their control southwards from the region of Kanchipuram or Kachi near modern Chennai. They were in continuous conflict with the Chalukyas, Cheras, Pandyas and the Cholas. Mahadev Varman first 600 to 630 CE and Narsim Varman first 630 to 668 CE were the greatest rulers of the Pallava dynasty. Mahendra Varman was a contemporary of both Harsha and Pulkeshin II but was defeated. Ultimately, Narsim Varman first defeated the Chalukyan king Pulkeshin II and captured Vatapi. After this victory, he took the title of Vatapi Konda or the conqueror of Vatapi. He also led successful expeditions to Sri Lanka. Continuous military conflicts weakened the Pallavas. In the 9th century CE, the Cholas defeated the Pallavas and ended their rule. Administration of Pallavas and Chalukyas. As mentioned earlier, village was a basic unit of administration and land revenue was the main source of income. There were some new beginnings as well. The king started taking various steps in order to get the support of persons who were powerful economically, socially, politically or militarily. Many important administrative posts became hereditary. This meant that sons succeeded fathers to these posts. Most important men probably had a say in local administration. These included the Nagarshresthi or chief banker or merchant of the city, the Sarthvaha or leader of the merchant caravans, the Prathama Kulika or the chief craftsman and the head of the Kayasthas or scribes. These policies were quite effective. But sooner or later, some of these powerful men grew strong enough to set up independent kingdoms. A new kind of army. Some of these kings maintained a well-organized army with elephants, chariots, cavalry and foot soldiers. Further, the military leaders provided the king with troops whenever he needed them. The military leaders were not given regular salaries. Further, some of them received grants of land. They collected revenue from the land. This revenue was used to maintain soldiers and horses and provide equipments for warfare. These men were called Samantas, who sometimes grew very powerful. They tried to become independent during the reign of the weak and inefficient rulers. This is the image of Kailashnath Temple, Kanchipuram. Think smarter. The Kailashnath Temple, Kanchipuram contains sculpture with paintings in the inner walls built by Rajsimha Pallava. Can this type of piece of work be built today with such advanced technology and equipment? Assemblies In the southern kingdom, there are many local assemblies in South India that functioned for several centuries. The inscriptions of the Pallavas also mention a number of local assemblies. For example, the Sabha was an assembly of Brahmin landowners. This assembly functioned through subcommittees. The subcommittees looked after agricultural operations, construction of roads, temples, etc. The Ur was a village assembly of non-Brahmin landowners. The Nagaram was an assembly of merchants. Probably these assemblies were controlled by rich and powerful landowners and merchants. Lives of the ordinary people. The life of ordinary people in these kingdoms was not good. We know about this from the plays and other accounts. Kalidas is known for his plays depicting the life of King's court. His most famous play is Abhijan Shakuntalam. It is the story of the love between a king named Dushyant and a young woman named Shakuntala. According to Kalidas' play, the king and the most Brahmins spoke Sanskrit language while others used Prakrit language. The Chinese pilgrim Hyun Sang has written that untouchable were expected to live on the outskirts of the city. People avoided touching them. In the loop, the Shore Temple. The Shore Temple 700 to 728 CE is so named because it overlooks the Bay of Bengal. It is a structured temple built with blocks of granite dating from the 8th century CE. It was built at Mallapuram, a tiny village south of Chennai in the state of Tamil Nadu. The village was a busy port during the 7th and the 8th century reign of the Pallava dynasty during the reign of Narasimhavarman II. As one of the group of monuments at Mahabalipuram, it has been classified as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Value and life skills. As you have read the chapter, what are values that you derive from it? Recapitulation. The Gupta dynasty controlled the destiny of most of the northern India for more than 200 years. Samudragupta ruled over the large parts of India. The Allahabad pillar inscription Prayag Prashasti lists his conquest. Chandragupta II, called Vikramaditya, defeated the Sakas. The Navratna in his court included the great poet Kalidas. Faheen also visited India during his reign. Harshvardhana ruled over North India with his capital at Kannauj. Harsha called the 5th Buddhist council at Kannauj in 641 CE. The Chalukyas ruled over the Raichur Doab between the rivers Krishna and Tugabhadra. There were local assemblies for local administration which included Ur, Sabha and Nagaram. Thank you class. Let's meet again next time.